Hello, my name is Brian Crute, or right here I'm Mr. Crute apparently, and I am doing the stages of the water cycle, or how the water cycle works. To start off with, I'll be teaching third grade, and since it's under the science, I kind of chose two different standards that go with science. The state standard I chose was SEPS.2, which is developing and using models and tools, and then the national standard, which is 3-5-ETS1-2, which is constructing explanations and designing solutions in this portion of the standard. So we're going to start off with the lesson objective, and the lesson objective would be that students will identify the stages of the water cycle with a picture match activity. This lesson objective that is presented will be precise and measurable by the students being able to know the definitions of the various steps in the water cycle and will be able to apprehend the sequence of the cycle. The unit objective that I chose would be that students will be able to explain what the water cycle is and how the water is recycled. The unit objective that is presented will be precise and measurable by students just giving the proper definition of what the water cycle is. Now, with the students' prior knowledge, my students will be building upon their knowledge from what they previously learned by knowing the different types of precipitation, which is like rain, sleet, snow, etc. And then the geographical landscapes that are used, which are mountains, oceans, etc. And then I will also use the students' creativity and view of the world for this episode, so hear what they need to connect to relate to the episode. Materials you see here, I'm not going to list, but you see it right here. But the important things we need to see here is the key terms and the attachment, the water cycle from the sky to the land and back again. We're going to use this for a separate activity and then an activity we're doing together in class. To start off with in the introduction, I'm going to start off with a critical and thought-provoking question to them about how do they think the ocean is staying full and then all of a sudden stays the same since the beginning of time. And then I'm going to answer it by saying, oh, the water cycle. And so in the explicit instruction teacher modeling, we're going to do, so the materials that were listed above, we're going to use them to correlate with the key terms that are in here. So for example, with evaporation, we're going to use certain materials for the evaporation to show how evaporation works, and then etc. with other key terms. With procedures continuing, we're going to do a guided practice. This is going to be us together in the class. We are going to use the paragraph on the right, which is already answered, but they will actually be fill in the blanks. So with the fill in the blanks, as a class we're going to read the paragraph together, and then we're going to pick a volunteer to read each blank. And then for independent working time, the students are going to work either in partners or just separated, and answering what the fill in the blanks would be with the key terms they learned earlier. Now, with the differentiation in this, the enrichment could be that you can challenge students to create an experiment with water cycle process physically or in drawing. And for support, allow partners on this one to assist others, like from group to group. It's good and useful for other teachers too. I think you should use it. And then for assessments, this is a summative assessment because we're going to do a grading process where we're either going to trade papers or grade our own papers. Then they're going to circle the answers in that assessment they did, and we're going to write the correct answer on top, and then it'll be graded for the percentage. It's simple, it's easy, and students will learn. So for content in this one, the cross-cutting concepts that I will be implementing are patterns, which is the whole water cycle. It's a pattern. Cause and effect, one portion of the cycle happens, then it leads into the next stage. And then the system and system models and stability and change. The traditional thing that this lesson plan is based off of is the water cycle. This is a great way to start off exploring science content and showing how the water cycle works and what has been happening in the Earth's water since the beginning of time. For context, the way that the traditional topic is related to my students would be that the spread of the pollution throughout the environment. Actually, an example would be in Africa, their water is contaminated so that when they barely even have the clean resources they get or the resources from wells, they kind of get contaminated from the water cycle, and then such as third world countries and even the poor, not individuals but places, that's my bad. And then critique. This episode shows the process of the water cycle pattern we can study by watching the changes stage, and I'm running out of time, I got 2 seconds. So Western modern science is driven by profit motive, and then Western modern science sometimes facilitates the destruction of nature. I connect both of these with deforestation, and these are my citations.
Brianna and then Sarah will finish us up.